Peace is something that each of us instinctively searches for our entire lives, and in each and every moment, we're looking for a measure of peace.
Open warfare rages through the streets of the city. 3,000 Union pickets tackle 700 planes.
There's nothing in life more gratifying than when different, even opposing, disparate things finally come together and make sense. Like when the different players of an orchestra practice their parts disharmoniously, but then finally burst out into symphonic song. Or when there's a war and the opposing parts finally make their peace. Or when different colors come together to make a beautiful picture, or different ingredients, exotic ingredients combine to make a tasty dish. And what is romance? It's when there's a delta between two opposing parts that are different, but this different other person wants to connect with me above the difference. So the peace between disparate, different parts at many different levels of reality is a sublime thing. We ourselves are the accumulation and combination of a variety of unfelt forces that are both internal and external, that if they combine in a proper way, meaning if there's peace between them, a homeostasis between them, we feel good. We feel a sensation of peacefulness and goodness. And if they're in an incorrect combination of these forces, we feel that we're shrouded in darkness, that our life is bleak. So in order to reach at least some measure of inner peace, people try various somewhat artificial methods to sort of balance all of the different forces that swing us in different directions. And we sort of intuitively understand from the get-go that we won't be able to balance and create peace out of all of the forces of reality, meaning all of my external reality, the factors that are causing chaos throughout the world, and the internal forces that are constantly warring within me. We're not going to be able to balance out all of the parts of the symphony at once. So people try various methods to kind of isolate one variable out of the whole lot and create a kind of separate piece. So we go on vacation to isolate work from the equation, or we go up to the mountains to isolate ourselves from the society part of the equation. Or we close our eyes and meditate to eliminate the whole reality that usually pressures me. Part of what creates the lack of peace is things in the reality that are chaotic and bothersome. And partly it's inside. So some people use drugs to numb this part of the disharmonious symphony and simply not deal with it for a while.
With LSD, the user believes he is discovering inner truth, that he is making a pilgrimage to the soul, that he has achieved unity with the universe.
But by any of these methods, we soon after realize that all of those elements that were giving us a feeling of lack of peace are alive and kicking. And that little bit of peace that we attain slips through our fingers like sand. Sometimes we even try to increase our peace by eliminating certain qualities from our lives. Certain people, for example. You or someone you know has probably tried to stop being in relationships with certain kinds of people. And what we often find is that we again and again end up with the same type of people in our lives. They somehow keep coming back into our experience in new forms, in new clothings, like in some kind of sci-fi movie.
Lucille, look! He's here.
Who's here?
The man from Mars.
Mars?
Yes, that's who it is.
Now, the predominant method of trying to attain peace, and it's most widespread because it's almost totally unconscious, is a kind of adult version of, if I can't see the danger, it doesn't exist and it can't harm me. We tend to do this about threats towards which we feel we are powerless. Like when I'm on a subway car and for some reason or another, some kind of menacing air starts to fill the car and I start to feel unsafe. But I tell myself it's okay. But in whatever situation we're in life, we're all seeking peace. This is why most people spend half their lives dreaming about their retirement, a time when they would rid themselves of the boss, the society, and various pressures. In fact, this is what all personal and collective development is for. It's about reaching peace, equilibrium, homeostasis. This is why we climbed down from the trees, went into the caves, moved into villages, then into cities, created nations, tried different forms of government in order to create peace between all of the different kind of warring factors. This is why atoms settle into the molecules that they do, why plants shift to find their place in the sun, why animals migrate from here to there, why ecosystems are altogether shifting until they find their balance, and why humanity has created various countries and treaties between countries and different kinds of governments shifting back and forth. But at the human level, we have not yet found a template by which to manage the relationships between all kinds of different people, behind the biological bodies of which really stand desires. We don't know how to organize, correctly manage, and find balance among these desires of human beings. And that's why it feels that humanity and individuals are going away from peace rather than coming closer to it. Carl Sagan once said about the nuclear arms race that it was like two people standing in a room full of gasoline and one bragging to the other that I have 9,000 matches and you only have 6,000. Today, in addition to the 3,500 active nuclear warheads we're aware of, we don't know which nefarious characters or nations have also obtained them. This is why several experts on world affairs are predicting that we will have a war, that it will be a world war, and that this war will be nuclear. And of course, when we hear about things that are going on in the world that are unpeaceful and kind of make us feel out of balance, we tell ourselves, just like we do in the subway car that feels menacing, we tell ourselves, it'll be okay. But it's still there in our subconscious, which is the greater part of the iceberg that is the human psyche. And actually, because humanity is all connected as part of a single system, what's going on in the world affects us at some deeper level, no matter whether we are up on some mountaintop on the plains of Wyoming or even on some isolated island. We feel it weighing on us on some level. There's a parable about a guy who's falling from the 10th floor of a building. And as he passes the 5th floor, someone says, "Hey, how's it going?" And he says, "I'm doing fine for now." And this is kind of how everyone is trying to be, from newscasters to world leaders to ordinary people. But for us to really be fine, for there to be a good future in front of us, both personally and as humanity, there has to be a promising, satisfying future that lies ahead. Dissatisfaction with the state of things engenders disharmony and upheaval.
From the abundance of equatorial jungles to the barrenness of great mountain ranges, the future offers great promise. They will carry a life stream of minerals and other natural resources to the thriving industries of tomorrow.
So check inside yourself. How are you doing? To what extent do you feel yourself wending away towards an optimistic, bright, good future? To what extent do you think that the rest of humanity is going towards such a future? And to what extent do you think that your individual future and that of the rest of humanity have become intertwined? Is it possible to have individual peace, a private, separate peace that is separate from the rest of humanity? And do we see peace in the world that we see before us today? Do we see that as even a remote possibility? Well, there is a method by which peace can be made right in the middle of all of the chaos that is unfolding around us. I'm not talking about making more treaties between countries or escaping to some inner world where I don't perceive any of the problems that are really going on still. This method, called the wisdom of Kabbalah, makes peace among all of the forces of reality from the center point of reality, from this point that stands between my inner world and the external world around me. We always thought it's either this or that. It's either I go out into the world like a humanitarian and start reforming the world and making it more peaceful, or I step back from it and I find inner peace, a separate peace. But this is like not using all the parts of the symphony, where some of the players remain in disbalance with the rest or not playing and contributing at all. But that's an incomplete, not rich, not full kind of peace. So in this series, we'll preview the method by which any person can achieve balance, peace with all of the reality around you, an all-inclusive peace that harmonizes all of the forces, both internal and external.